Welcome to the Will Ventures podcast. We're your hosts, Yash Gupta.
And I'm Aaron Miller. And today we're here with Adam Breneman.
Adam is a former 5-star recruit. He played at Penn State and UMass and later became a coach at Arizona State.
And since retiring from football, he's become a media personality as the host of Next Up, a commentator on CBS and Yahoo, and also the co-founder of the College Sports Company.
Adam has a really unique perspective on where college sports is heading as a former player, coach, and now influencer in the space, and we're excited to get his thoughts. Let's jump in. Adam, man, we really appreciate you making the time today. On a personal level, it's been awesome to get to know you over the last few months. You're one of the leading voices and minds in college sports today, and so just really excited to pick your brain on where things are heading. Before we jump in, though, James Franklin to Virginia Tech. How you feeling about that?
I think it's a perfect fit. Franklin and Virginia Tech, that was where I thought he'd go the whole time.
Okay.
The question was whether Franklin was going to hold out to take another job, Florida State, Florida, Arkansas. If you're Franklin, for both sides. Like if you're Franklin, you get a clear path to the college football playoff every year in a conference that doesn't have Ohio State or Michigan or Oregon, in a conference that doesn't have Alabama and Ole Miss, right? You're in the ACC. So you have a path to the playoff every year and winning that conference. If you're Virginia Tech, like you get a program builder who's done it multiple places who will.
Totally.
And I also think one of the biggest issues with Franklin at Penn State was there was never a level of appreciation for James Franklin at Penn State. All the success he had, the fans, for whatever reason, I love Penn State fans, but we're different. Like it's a different place. It's tough to please everybody at Penn State, especially when you're following a guy like Joe Paterno who won for so long.
Yeah.
There was never a true appreciation. Everyone always wanted more. Franklin wins 8 games there next year. That place will be ecstatic. I mean, they'll love him forever, right?
Absolutely.
Like he wants to win a national championship, but like the fan base would probably be okay if he wins the ACC a couple times and has a great career there. So, but I do think one of the really cool things Coach Franklin said a bunch is his goal is to be the first black head coach to win a national championship in college football.
Yeah.
And I know Coach Franklin. He's very strategic. Like he would not take this job if he didn't truly believe he could win a national championship at Virginia Tech. So,
and who do you think Penn State goes for now, or who'd you want?
That's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
I like Bob Chesney, who's the head coach at James Madison. He was the head coach at Holy Cross. Did a great job there. He's a young guy, Pennsylvania guy, great looking, speaks well, like everything you think of when you think of a Penn State guy and Penn State head coach. But he hasn't coached at the Power 4 level yet. I think that's going to be a question. And is he ready for the opportunity? I think he is. I think Kalen DeBoer is a real candidate for the Penn State job, the Alabama head coach.
Yeah.
It just seems like a weird fit at Alabama for whatever reason. I think he's a real candidate. I know Penn State was trying to get Mike Elko, but he just got a massive extension at Texas A&M. Eli Drinkowitz at Missouri is a real candidate as well. The Urban Meyer thing was real too. I just heard it kind of fell apart, but I know they had some conversations with Urban Meyer as well. So it's going to be fun to see how it plays out. What an interesting job to take.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you're taking jobs in college football, especially at a place like Penn State, you are kind of rebuilding a program. Like the coach, especially if a coach got fired. So like a coach gets fired, you're often like the program sucks, right? You're like, it's a rebuild job. If the coach moves on, it's a great job. The program's in a good spot. This is a weird instance where the coach got fired, but the program's in like an amazing spot. It's not a rebuild job. It's like you're trying to take it from an A to an A+ program, right? Or like you're trying to go from top 10 to top 4. And Franklin got fired for not getting there. So it's a really strange situation where you're not looking at a program builder. Like you're like, who can actually get us to win a national championship? We don't need someone who can like build it from the ground up, right? It's already there.
I'm so pumped for this podcast because I feel like we got an awesome set of fans at the table.
College football,
Yash, as I'm sure you know, is like deep in the USC Reddits, like just reading everything out there. And then I'm much more of like, I play NCAA football, addicted to that, and I'll watch the big games. I'll watch the playoff and Ohio State games, but I'm not like in it. So I feel like we have a few cool perspectives,
no doubt,
to come at things from. Really cool. But I gotta ask you the most like basic question.
Yeah.
CFB coming up. Who's your pick to win this year?
Yeah, man. I actually just was on a podcast thinking about this. Ohio State is the best team in the country, and I don't see anyone beating them. I think they're going to win the national championship again. They're just so dominant on both sides of the ball. And Julian Sayin, their quarterback, first year starting, like never thought he was going to be this good. I mean, he is an all-world player, and he's completing 80% of his passes. He's incredible. Doesn't turn the football over. He's perfect for that offense with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and the playmakers they have, just like managing the game. Don't try to do too much. Like he's even better than Will Howard was for them. I mean, he's been so good. That was the wild card, is how good would Julian Sayin be, and he's been incredible. So I don't see anyone beating Ohio State. It's going to be fun to see how this plays out with the 12-team playoff. I mean, USC-Oregon game this weekend. I don't know when this will come out, but USC-Oregon plays on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like if USC beats Oregon, like, is USC in the playoff? I want to say they should be, but
absolutely. Let this be the announcement. USC needs to be in the playoff.
No, 100%. Like, if USC beats Oregon, USC and Oregon should both be in the playoff, right? They're both 2-loss teams. They should both be in. But the problem is you got 2 of these spots of the 12 spots going to a Group of 5 champ and an ACC champion. They should not be in the playoff. It should be the 12 best teams in college football. The fact that we're gonna not allow a 2-loss team, there's a real chance that out of Alabama, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, USC, Oregon, if USC beats Oregon, Michigan could be in there. There's a real chance that some of those teams aren't in the playoff.
Yeah.
Because you got to be in not the top 12, the top 10, because there's 5 automatic qualifiers. So you got to be in the top 10 if you're an at-large bid. So I think there's a real chance that, like, if USC beat Oregon, there's a chance that the Big Ten gets 2 teams in and not 4. I hate to say it, but I think there's a real chance that, like, depending on how it plays out, that USC wouldn't make the playoff. They 100% should, but it's just it's a crazy system. I think we'll see the 16-team expansion pretty soon, and I think we'll see Group of 5 not having an automatic bid to the playoff. I think it's just not. It's a wasted spot.
If USC wins this weekend, I feel like you're not coming into work on Monday.
No doubt.
I don't know when we're going to release this podcast.
Can Lincoln Riley finally win on the road is the question.
I mean,
Alston Stadium, tough place to play, man.
Tough place to play.
Yeah.
We actually, our colleague, partner at Will Ventures, Ben Gardner, former football captain at Stanford, dominant years for him against Oregon, and he won in Austin a few times.
Yeah.
So he needs to give some USC some tips.
I love it.
But
I know you gave me my flowers in the beginning, so I do want to say, like, I love what you guys are doing at Will Ventures.
Thank you, man.
From a content standpoint, like, that's where I first really discovered you guys, from the Substack. Everyone subscribe and read the Substack newsletters on the Will Ventures that you two put out. But I mean, everything you guys are doing in sports and cool dudes, and you understand the industry well. And, like, it's tough to find people that when you talk about sports with, or you talk about sports business, like, truly understand it. And I feel like you guys are, like, leading the way in it. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. We appreciate that.
That means a lot. Well, let's jump in, dude.
Yeah.
Would love to start out at the beginning. So you grew up in Pennsylvania in Mechanicsburg. Your father played tight end at Delaware Valley College. He was an NCAA Division III All-American.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up with that kind of football pedigree, how early did you know that you wanted to play football and play at the sort of the big levels?
Yeah, my dad was a D3 All-American, which my dad reminds me all the time that D3 is good football, right? He's like, that's good players down there at D3. It reminds me he was an All-American at all times. I'd never seen proof he was an All-American at the D3 level. We just take his word for it. I mean, I was exposed to football at a very young age. I wanted to play football since I was very little. My parents kind of held me out for a little bit, like, didn't want me to play when I was too young. But to be honest, like, I literally dreamed of being a tight end growing up because my dad was a tight end, right? I used to run stick routes in the backyard, like learning how to block and learning how to run certain tight end routes.
And who is your favorite pro tight end?
Yeah, I would say I grew up as I mean, Gronkowski was kind of like, when I was in high school, Gronk was the big tight end everyone talked about. I mean, I was an Eagles fan growing up, so, like, Brent Selleck of the Eagles. Yep. I wore you story number 87 because of Brent Selleck. There probably aren't many people that say Brent Selleck's their favorite tight end of all time, so I hope he sees this clip. But yeah, I loved football. Like, always wanted to play it. Played multiple sports in high school, but it wasn't really until I got to high school that I realized I was actually good at playing football. And, like, my goal for a while was honestly just, like, playing college. I wanted to play D3 football, or, like, I used to go to Delaware Valley College games with my dad. I just wanted to do that until I really got into high school, and I was tall. I was always tall. I got to, like, 6'4" when I was in 8th grade, and then 9th grade maybe. But it took a while for my body to catch up. Like I was like playing guard in like middle school football. Like I was not athletic at all. And then I don't know how it happened, but like one day I just like started running and like everything moved a little bit smoother. And as I got more coordinated, I started to get better at football.
So you had an awesome college career. You get to Penn State, you're a freshman All-American. Then you transfer to UMass and you're an All-American there. And then 2018, you decide to hang up the cleats because of knee injuries. And I want to ask, what'd you learn from that journey and ultimately walking away from it?
Yeah, great question. I mean, there's a lot in that process there of all the things I went through in my football career. My football career was filled with a lot of ups and then definitely a lot of downs too. And I look back on it now with full appreciation for what I went through. I mean, it really taught me a lot at a young age, and I went through things that most people don't get to go through when they're that young. I think for a while there was a sour taste in my mouth about my football career. I mean, like the reality is like I'm in a very small bucket of people that were a 5-star recruit, a 3-time All-American in college, was a finalist for the John Mackey Award, the best tight end in the country, and then didn't play in the NFL. Right, like that, there aren't that many people who like went through that and then never actually played on an NFL roster. And I had to, I lived with that for a while of kind of like a regret of not of anything I did, but more like, man, I can't believe this didn't work out for me. And this was my identity. At the same time, I have started to have appreciation for all the things I did go through and did experience in my college career, like the fact that I did have those experiences I just said, the fact that I ran out of the field at Beaver Stadium and had touchdowns at Penn State and was a 5-star recruit and got to take my family on that experience, and I had all the success I had at UMass. Like very few people get to live that dream, and I got to live it. I think, throughout my football career, there were always other things I wanted to do than play football. Like I was never. I knew I had more to do in this world than just play the sport of football. And I was always preparing for like what would happen when I stopped playing football. I was like, I got my master's degree and I got my MBA when I was at Penn State or when I was at UMass. And, always took that really seriously. And then it wasn't until I actually had to retire. I was at the Senior Bowl. I couldn't run. I was going to the draft, failed a bunch of physicals. The doctors were like, "Man, you just like there's no future here for you." And I retired. That became a reality, and I really had to put in the plan for the next phase of my life. I'll say for I think a couple years after I got done playing football, I was almost like numb to the whole experience of just like, okay, now it's time to go be successful somewhere else. And I actually don't think this is healthy, but my mindset was and still has been like, okay, screw football. I need to go be successful in other things now. I need to grind because I want to go make as much money or do what I would have done if I would have played football. All my buddies are playing the NFL. So it became a very much like coping mechanism, I think, of like grind, success, money, totally. Like trying to make it in business and prove to myself more than anything that I could do things at a high level. But I really think, all that to say, I really think over the last couple of years, I've come to a much better place with it. Like I look at my football career with a lot of appreciation, and I'm proud of what I accomplished. Do I wish I was playing in the NFL right now? Yeah, but I think in life, like you never actually know if things are good or bad until you see how it impacts the rest of your life. And at the time, you think retiring from football at 23 years old is like the worst thing ever. But as I sit here at 30, like I don't know if that's the case. Maybe if I played football, something bad would have happened to me. Maybe I wouldn't be here now. Like I wouldn't be in the situation I am. And now because I retired from football at that age, I'm now in the place professionally that I am. So you never actually know if things are good or bad until you see how it impacts the rest of your life. That was a long answer, I know. Sorry.
No, not at all. I mean, it's an awesome lesson, by the way. It's something that we talk to the entrepreneurs we support at Will Ventures all the time. Like the journey's sometimes not linear, right? No doubt. And you can connect the dots looking backwards, but like in that moment, it's really challenging. One of the things I really respect about you is, you took some time off and then you sort of go back into football at Arizona State as a grad assistant, and then you're promoted to the full-time position coach, one of the youngest in the Power Five at that time. You're working with some awesome people, Herm Edwards, Antonio Pierce, like a pretty stacked room there. What were your sort of biggest learnings from coaching, and what was that transition like coming from the playing side?
Man, that was an awesome experience. If I learned one thing in my life, I thought of this after I finished talking about the lesson I learned. If I've learned one thing, it's that things never go the way you think they're going to, right? Like you may have a plan for your life and it never goes that way. I never thought I was going to go coach. And then I got a call one day from Herm Edwards, and my strength coach from when I was at UMass was now the strength coach at Arizona State. So he calls me as well. He's like, hey, we're looking for to hire someone to come coach the tight ends. I'm like, I'm working. Like, I'm not even like in football at this point. And I said, you know what? Once a lifetime opportunity. It's Herm Edwards. It's Antonio Pierce. It's Marvin Lewis. It's like these football royalty at Arizona State in the desert in Scottsdale. I'm like, all right, I'm 24 years old. I'm going to Arizona. So I say yes and fly out there and was there for a couple of years. And right away, like really loved coaching. Like I loved being around the players and I loved recruiting and I really made a name for myself. And, you know, as soon as we had an opening on the staff, a full-time position coach opening, like got promoted to tight ends coach and was 25 years old and was the tight ends coach at Arizona State, and you know, was the youngest in the country. You know, there were a bunch of, and then like had a bunch of opportunities to go elsewhere too. I mean, I interviewed to be the tight ends coach at Penn State. You know, I was like, there were opportunities, and I thought for sure. When I was 25 years old, tight ends coach at Penn State, or tight ends coach at Arizona State, I thought for sure I was going to coach the rest of my life. I mean, that was like, I'm going to be a head coach. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a head coach. I'm going to try to be coordinator. Yeah, I'm going to be a head coach, and I'm going to be like, I'm a coach for 30 years as a head coach somewhere. You know, but we at Arizona State, we went under investigation for NCAA sanctions almost as soon as I got hired as a tight ends coach. Long story short, like whole coaching staff gets fired. We all, like Herm Edwards gets fired, Antonio Pierce gets fired, I get fired. Well, I resigned technically, but you know, everyone's fired. It was forceful resignations by everybody.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had to decide what I wanted to do. Like what I wanted to do. Do I still want to stay in coaching? Do I want to go do something else? And that's when I transitioned to media, which I'm sure we'll get to in a second. But that was really a tough time as well, because like you think about the highs of the highs and the lows of the lows. Like, I mean, I'm sitting there 25 years old thinking I'm going to be head coach. I'm interviewing to be the tight ends coach at Penn State. Like articles are getting written about me. I'm on the 30 under 30 list for coaches. And then like, boom, I get a call and it's like, hey, like we may all get fired here. Like we're about to get in some trouble. And I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah. And you know, I remember calling some of my friends and people I'm close with, even my dad, during that process. And I remember saying, right when the rumors started that we were getting investigated, I remember saying to my dad, I think I may need to hire a lawyer, because like I don't think this is going to go well. Like just like what I knew about the situation, all the, you know, and just in these situations, everyone starts looking out for themselves, right? So I said, I think we may need to hire a lawyer, and everyone's like, dude, you're overreacting. Like, well, sure enough, like 2 weeks later, like people are starting to get suspended, and I got to, you know, we're going to hire legal help. It just was a crazy, crazy time. I'll say this about being around Herm Edwards and Marvin Lewis and all these great coaches. One of the coolest things Herm Edwards did, he was so focused all the time on coaching the coaches. So as a 25-year-old coach at Arizona State, Herm Edwards, I would walk into my office every day, and a few days a week, there'd be a printed out piece of paper on my desk with Herm's advice for me for that day.
That's incredible.
Right? So and it would be a lesson. It would be like, I remember, and it would be tailored to what I needed. I remember one time I was in a big recruiting battle. I was trying to get this kid, Kean Burnett. I still remember the battle. I was trying to get Kean Burnett to commit. He ended up going to USC, I think.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, you were. Yeah,
I was manager on the team for a year.
Yeah. Josh was on the phone.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you were. That's why I lost it, dude. I'm talking like this. So this is my. I just got promoted to tight ends coach, and this is my first. And I got promoted basically for recruiting. Like, let's be honest. Like, no, I was 25. Like, you get promoted.
Building relationships.
You get building relationships. It's like, okay, like he can recruit. So Kean Burnett's our top target, and I'm in a battle to get him to come to Penn State. I'm trying to remember, or to come to ASU. I'm trying to remember who the tight ends coach was at USC. Was it Hodge or something? Or what's his?
No, this is
2021 probably. If you said his name, I'd remember it. Anyway,
yeah, I'm blanking.
I'm trying to get him to come to Arizona State, and it's kind of, you know what it's kind of like? It's pathetic when you're a coach and you're thinking about this, but I remember like he stopped texting me back as fast as he was originally, right? And you're like, something's not going well here, you know?
Yeah.
And then like he's supposed to commit, and I think he's coming to us. And our whole coaching staff is aware. Herm Edwards was on it with me, and he commits to USC, which is like our big rival in recruiting. And man, I was down bad. I was like, I cannot. Like, I got hired to land this kid, and like we didn't get him. And he goes to USC, and you know, Herm was like joking around with me about it. Like our next team meeting, it was our staff meeting, and he started the meeting. He's like, everyone say something to Breneman today. He's hurting a little bit, like just joking around with me. But I remember he left a note on my desk, and I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was just like he wrote out like his words of wisdom after something like this happens. And it was really about how everyone will watch how you act after this now.
Yeah.
Like something bad happens to you. Everyone on the staff wants to know that you'll say the exact same, so that when we're in battle together, like they know, oh, like of course we just move on. He gets the next one, because I'm 25 and emotional, and like this is like I can't believe this happened to me. He should have came here. So I think that those are the cool things I learned from Herm. Like he always cared about that stuff, and he always talked about with young players. He always would remind me. He would always say, before you do anything else, you got to give them hope. And he would always say, like, when you have a meeting with young kids and like the 18 to 20-year-old kids, like if they don't have hope that it's going to work for them here, like they won't listen to anything else you say.
Yeah.
He's like, so lead every meeting and make sure every player has hope for their future as with you as their coach in this program, or else what you teach them about inside zone and the routes, they won't even listen to it. He just would always say, you got to start with hope. And I try to come back to that sometimes, even with like employees, like if they don't have hope that their future is going to be good there, or if they don't believe in it, you're not going to get their best. They're not even going to listen to what you say as a leader. So
we see that a lot of the time in the startups we invest in and the early employees at those companies, because it's not like those companies are printing cash from day one. Yeah. They're really being sold by the founders on the hope of this becoming a generational company, and they're going to grow with it. And that whole story, I think it speaks to the lesson you were talking about, where everything happens for a reason. So many ex-players want to be coaches, and because you had to hang up the cleats, you got that awesome experience. You got that mentorship from Herm. Yeah. And then next, you get this amazing experience becoming a media personality. We talk with so many players and we say, hey, what do you want to do after? And they say, I want to be on TNT. I want to be on ESPN. I want to be one of those guys. And it looks easy when those guys are talking on TV. But if you've done it, you realize it's pretty hard. Yeah. And you have that experience. You are one of the leading media personalities, faces for college sports right now. How did you decide to leave coaching and then move into media? Yeah, there were a lot of conversations about it with people when we left Arizona State. When I left coaching, I had some opportunities. And like I think one of the things that successful people have, I'm sure you guys have it too, or anyone who like believes in themselves, that you have this almost becomes a dilemma where you feel like you can do like so many different things. Yeah. And I left Arizona State and I'm like, okay, like I could go do this, I could stay in coaching, and I truly believed I could be good at all of it, right? It's kind of like, I remember meeting with James Franklin. I'll get back to this. I remember meeting with James Franklin in 2020 before I went to Arizona State as the GA. I went to meet with Coach Franklin at Penn State because I decided I wanted to get into coaching. I'm like, all right, I want to, or at least explore what it looked like. And I said to Coach Franklin in a meeting, he's like, I'd love to help you. We don't have any spots here open, but what can I do? And I said, Coach, my issue is like, I have so many things I could do. I could be in business, I could be in media, I could be a coach. And Franklin was like, you think that's a you problem? Like, what do you think about me? This is Coach Franklin. Like, I could be a politician, I could be a business guy, CEO. Like, everyone has that dilemma. You got to decide what you want to do. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I never thought of it like that. Franklin's awesome, by the way. It was super helpful during that whole process. But yeah, I when we left Arizona State, I really was like observing the social media landscape, and what was happening is the TikTokification of everything. Like TikTok was booming. It was in the era of TikTok where you could post a video and every video went viral, right? There just wasn't a ton of supply, but so many people were viewing it. And Pat McAfee just landed like a massive deal. Dan Orlovsky was starting to pop off a little bit, and I was watching these social media creators. Jordan Palmer was a guy who quarterback guru who was creating TikTok content. And I just was like, man, like I'm sitting here and I'm like 25, 26. I'm like, I have all this experience in football of I was a 5-star recruit. I coached. I was and I'm young. Like no one else my age has all this experience. And I could talk about this game at a high level. And it kind of blended like the business with the media side, where like you're kind of also an entrepreneur. And I just said, screw it, I'm going to go all in and start making videos. I didn't know what it was going to lead to. I just started making TikTok content and started posting videos about college football and my experience in recruiting and my everything I learned, kind of like inside college football, like how it works when a team travels. I was just making videos like that all the time. And this is probably back in 2022. And did you think it would become a business, that you would become a huge face?
Not when we started it, but like pretty early on, I knew it was going to work because like we started like the third video I made got like 2 million views. I actually remember like where I was like refreshing TikTok. I was in Scottsdale like out to eat, and I'm like, oh my god, this video is going viral. And then I saw pretty quickly the power of social media content. Like I started to get recognized like way more in public, and I started to get opportunities, like people emailing me being like, hey, we want to work with you at this brand, or hey, we should want to talk about this, just from, and even if they didn't reference social media, like I knew it was from social media. They saw my videos. But like the power of the social media content is crazy. I was actually, I did a couple games this year with Patrick Peterson, who's a NFL future Hall of Famer, well-known player. And we were joking because like when we were at a game together, like I'm standing beside a Hall of Famer. But like all these kids are like coming up to me to like take pictures with me and stuff. And then I would say like, this is Patrick Peterson. And then they'd be like, oh my God. And then he would get swarmed. But it was starting with me.
Totally.
And Patrick's just like, what's going on here? And I'm like, bro, it's because of TikTok. They see my face. They don't see your face. Like they know who you are, but like, and they may not even know my name. A lot of times people say to me, are you the tight end guy from TikTok?
Yeah.
Or like, are you the former D1 coach? Because I say that in my videos a lot. But yeah, so then I went all in and started creating content, and everything I've done since then has come from content. Like and I often come back to that with my team and like our content team when I get sidetracked and I'm trying to do business stuff or like talking about deals and like investing and all this stuff. And my brother does a good job of this too, who's my business partner at Arvella Media. He says to me all the time, he's like, don't lose sight of your content, because like if you don't have your content,
you don't have
nothing else matters. You know, like none of your business, no one wants to work with you if you don't have that following of the content.
I will say, like to the point on TikTok and getting the younger generation to follow you. One thing that's I think really cool about you is you can speak to the younger generation, the upcoming college football fans, but you also have the voice of the athletes. You also have the voice of the GMs, the athletic directors, the coaches. And so you're able to straddle this line of, hey, I've been through this journey. And so you can talk to pretty much every stakeholder in the industry, which I think is super cool. Yeah,
I think it's definitely a niche in the football world that I feel like I've tried to create, is like being so, and I think TikTok helps a lot, but being someone who like Gen Z knows really well. Like I always know where I'm going to get recognized at. It's funny, like my girlfriend jokes with me all the time, but like when we're with high school, somewhere where the high school boys will be, like we know I'm about to get recognized. If it's someone where like an older crowd, like probably not, but like, I'm at a college football game and there's like the student section, like for sure, like those people are gonna watch my content, know who I am. If I'm at like a dinner with like 40+-year-olds, like I'm probably not getting recognized. So we always joke about that. But yeah, I also think with the combination of, because I was a coach and because a lot of these coaches recruited me, a lot of these coaches I now call their games and broadcast, like I'm in the meetings with them, that it creates this like double credibility where a lot of people, I think, have one or the other, right? If you are a content creator, the coaches don't respect you. They're like, this guy's on TikTok. If you want the respect of the coaches, a lot of those guys like aren't necessarily posting content or they don't know, like Gen Z probably doesn't know who Joel Klatt is, right? Like for a lot of, now the football fans do, but like for most people, like the high school boy demographic, Gen Z male population probably doesn't. So yeah, I tried to straddle that line. It's tough because at times, like you're trying to be a content creator, but you also want to be professional. You also want to get the respect of the coaches, but you want to post it on TikTok. It's kind of like I'm always straddling the line a little bit.
Speaking of TikTok, we got to mention we got a fantasy football league for Will Ventures, and the loser actually has to start a TikTok to start posting. It's looking like it's going to be our colleague Jacob Westfall. Okay. So he might ask for a collab at some point.
No doubt. Let's do it. He'll probably start going viral, and then he'll get a bunch of views and
probably
creating his own content.
But we want to get some hot takes. We want to start talking about the state of college football, which has really been upended, all of college sports since you were a student athlete. We could talk about this for 3 hours, but short version is post House settlement era, being a student athlete has fundamentally changed, where now these kids are getting paid and they're not just athletes, but they are doing endorsement deals. They're doing a whole lot more off the field, and they have to think of themselves as business people. What are you hearing from players on the ground, who I'm sure you're talking with all the time, as the biggest day-to-day differences between being a student athlete when you were playing versus today?
Oh, man. There's a lot of differences. The biggest thing is the financial component to everything that happens, and it's transactional now. It is college football is really just a business, as it should be, between the players, the coaches, and the donors or whoever's funding a lot of this NIL and revenue share agreements that these players have. I think when I was playing, there was a little bit more, recruiting was such a big piece of it because you were choosing a school because you had to be there for 4 years. If you wanted to transfer, you had to sit out. If you weren't getting paid, you wanted to get your degree from that school because you weren't sure how much money you were going to make in college, and there was no money if you didn't go pro. And it was about fit with the coaches because the coaches were staying there a lot longer. Now, recruiting is just about money. And again, as it should be for the athletes. Like, I'm not faulting them for that. But now recruiting is really just like disguised free agency / pay for play. That's like disguised as not being like that, but it really is. These players have to make decisions for themselves of like trying to make the most money as possible as soon as possible. And then you don't know what coaches are going to say there. You also know that if you get it wrong, you can transfer right away. So the dilemma in recruiting, there really isn't a dilemma. Like you're just like picking where can I make the most money in the shortest period of time. If it doesn't work, we'll go somewhere else. And that's why, I was talking to Jeff Monken, the head coach at Army, and he had 2 guys that transferred. He had a defensive end, Ella Madozi, transferred to Georgia, and a running back, Kanye Udo, transferred to Arizona State. And he's like, I'm trying to convince these guys to stay in Army, but like they're getting paid like $400,000. He's like, so part of me wants to stand up and shake their hand and be like, congratulations.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Like, good luck. Like, I'm happy for you. He's like, how do I tell that kid who came from like, again, I don't know where those guys are from, but how do I tell a kid who may not have a lot of money, like to say no to that? Like we're not paying him anything at Army. So it's much more transactional. I think the notion that these student athletes are student athletes is like a falsehood. Like they're not student athletes. No. They are athletes that are there to perform a service to the university, to the school. And school is certainly secondary to everybody at these major Power 4 programs. I'm not saying it's that way across college football. It's that way at the major institutions in the country where that matters the most. And again, for student athletes, for the athletes, it probably should be. Like you have a chance to change your life and make a lot of money. Like I'd be prioritizing money too. Would I have gone to Penn State if I had more money elsewhere? I don't know. I can't sit here and confidently say that right now. But I also think it's a good thing for the players. I think with everything that's going on, the state of college football has never been better. There's never been better viewership. There's more parity in the sport than we've ever had. It's more exciting than we've ever had. I also think that there was this notion that like, if you start paying the players, they'll stop performing as well, or they'll stop caring as much. Money's the best incentive of all time. It's the best motivator for players. Like, you talk about a quarterback wanting to play well. He's got $1 million NIL deal on the line. He's not going to not try hard because he made $1 million last year. If you guys know anything, once you make some money, you want even more and more and more. That's how it is. So the sport's never been better, but there is a lot of chaos, and the coaches are feeling the brunt of it because you're balancing revenue share, you're balancing NIL, which is an addition to revenue share, roster limits, 2 transfer portal periods, which now is moving to 1, which will be good for the sport. But it's definitely made constructing a roster really hard.
And one of the things that concerns me as a fan is like you're actually starting to see this even trickle down into high school now, right? Where it's like, okay, you see players transferring schools, you have players getting paid in high school as well. There's different state regulations around that. The recruiting process, and you and I have talked a lot about this personally, to me feels like very, very different from when you went through it. Mm-hmm. And then to your point around roster construction, not only have to recruit players, you have to retain players. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious, how do you feel about where things stand on the recruiting side today, and what would you change about some of those dynamics?
Yeah, recruiting is difficult because you really have multiple buckets of recruiting. The first recruiting is your own roster. You got to recruit your own roster every year. So you got to look at the guys on your team and say, who are the ones we want to keep? Like every team this offseason, as soon as the season ends, they're probably doing it right now. We'll look at the roster and say, okay, we have 95 players. Who are the 50 we want to keep on the team? And then we got to recruit them. We got to meet with all of them, give them new NIL deals, revenue share deals, and keep them on the team. Then you got to look at the transfer portal recruiting. That's the next step. If you have a need, can you fill it through the portal? And then the third piece is high school recruiting. And it's hurting the high school recruits the most, and it's more important than ever for them to be putting themselves out there and to be making sure they're like getting as much attention as possible, because there's less and less opportunities for the high school recruits. There's a lot of coaches who say really the formula is if a high school recruit can't make an impact within 2 years of being on campus, there's a better answer in the portal than signing that high school kid. So maybe you give him 1 year to like develop. If he's not starting his second year, and if we don't think he's capable of that, we're going to the portal. We'll get a kid for 2 years that's already developed somewhere else. So think about the high school kids. Like there is less and less spots, and it trickles down to every level, for high school recruits to play in college football, especially at the levels that they actually want to. But there's also great opportunity, because if you're a great high school prospect, with teams having less spots, there's more demand for the top recruits. Like everyone wants the best players at a high school. So there's opportunity in that as well. I think we're going to need to see changes among what constructing a roster actually looks like. Like how many kids, how many people can you take from the transfer portal? How many from high school? What's the best way to actually do it? Because we've seen different programs model it differently. It all comes back to retention.
Yeah.
If you can't, like Penn State for a while, Penn State's been a great high school recruiting program that has developed players and retained the players. I mean, Penn State's best players, terrible season, but going into the year, this was supposed to be like a historic roster. Penn State's best players are all developed from high school. Yeah. Drew Aller, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, Denai Dennis Sutton, Zakee Wheatley, all these guys were high school recruits who came to Penn State and developed in that program. Yeah. And they kept, and they paid to keep. So that's the most important piece. Who can actually keep their roster?
Yeah, I mean, retention's big. A big part of retention is, the coaching, the mentorship, but as you said, a big part of it is money. Mm-hmm. If someone else is offering you to transfer, you might go take that. And I think one of the hardest jobs is not just being a player right now, it's being a GM, a coach, or an AD. Because these guys, what they're having to do is think through retention, think through recruiting, also think through fundraising, how they're going to go get the $50 million that they need from donors to go pay for these programs. Yeah. We wrote something about how we think being a GM, which by the way is a brand new role, like what Andrew Luck is doing at Stanford, it's arguably the craziest sports executive job in the industry.
Wild.
What are you hearing from these guys, the GMs, the ADs, about how hard their jobs are?
Yeah. I mean, it is a crazy time to be a GM in college football. The GM, like 2 years ago, wasn't even really a role, as you said. It certainly wasn't a sexy role like it is now. Like now they're all getting paid new contracts, and they're all. I mean, USC's GM is Chad Bowden. Yeah. I had him on my podcast. He's a great one. Courtney Morgan at Alabama. There's all Barton Simmons at Vanderbilt. All these guys that are now like becoming mini celebrities at their school because they're the ones driving the ship. The GM structure is really interesting because when you think general manager. In the NFL, general manager sits above the head coach. A lot of times the general manager is hiring the head coach underneath him. The general manager runs the entire organization. In college, that's not really the case. The general manager runs the part of the program the head coach doesn't run, which is personnel and recruiting and roster management. But the coach is still ultimately in charge of the GM. So it is a unique dynamic, and the GMs have to have great relationships with the coaches. I think we're going to continue to see college football move more to the NFL model. The difference with the NFL is that in the NFL, your position coaches and your coaches don't acquire the talent. They coach the talent. They game plan and they develop. So if I'm the tight ends coach for the Green Bay Packers, I'm not drafting the players. I'm not evaluating. I may help with evaluations, but I'm not deciding like who's coming to. I'm just getting my tight ends and then coaching them based on the general manager and who they decide to pick. And that allows the coaches to actually focus on development, game planning, all that stuff. In college, when I was a tight ends coach at Arizona State, not only was I coaching the team and game planning, I was evaluating 50 prospects a day, deciding who I wanted to offer those kids myself, recruit them myself, and decide who we actually were going to sign and then get the approval of the head coach. So I was doing all of that. Like you don't have the coaches are ultimately still in charge of evaluation and decisions in college. That's going to start moving away from the coaches' responsibility to the GMs. Yeah. Texas Tech is already in that path where the coaches help with evaluation, but ultimately the GM and the personnel department decide and acquire the talent. The coaches get told who to recruit instead of deciding themselves who they're going to recruit, right? I think that's a big difference, and that will put more and more responsibility on the GMs. We're going to see GMs' salaries start to creep into head coaches' salaries. Yeah. I mean, you have head coaches making $10 million a year at a lot of these Power 4 programs. There's no reason that the GM shouldn't make $3 million a year. right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is, and they're already starting. I mean, we have tons of $1 million plus contracts, annual salaries for GMs that will creep up more and more, especially as programs try to acquire different GMs, and it's going to be a bidding war for GMs because the GMs come with. Think about if you're a big time program and you acquire and you go get the USC GM, Chad Bowden. If you get Chad Bowden to go to your school, not only are you getting Chad Bowden's expertise, you're getting all of the roster relationships, all the players from USC. He has their cell phone numbers. He knows exactly what they got paid at USC. He knows what Mekhi Lemon made last year and Jacoby Lane and Jaden Mayava. Like he knows all that. And if he takes a job at Oregon or at Penn State or at Michigan or Alabama, like these GMs are extremely valuable, especially because they manage and negotiate and have the relationships on the financial side with everyone.
Totally. And by the way, you mentioned something really important. There is no transparency in what players are being compensated.
No transparency at all. And you made a great point there, Adam. Like it feels like the pros, right? Mm-hmm. The big difference is you don't have the same structures like collective bargaining, salary caps, contracts for players. Yeah. And this is needed for both the players, it's needed for the coaches. Yeah. It's really needed for the ecosystem.
Well, the two big things that need to get fixed for college football right now, one, you just mentioned the collective bargaining. I was at the college football national championship game this past year, and at that weekend or that week, every major conference is meeting about the future of college football. The school presidents are all meeting. The athletic directors are all meeting. The commissioners are all meeting. The conference commissioners, they're deciding how many teams they want in the playoff, how many games they're going to play, what bye weeks look like, how is spring practice going to stay in.
Yeah,
they're deciding all these important things. But guess who isn't at the table having any representation? Yep. The athletes.
Yeah,
there's no one representing the athletes at the table in these meetings. And I hate to say it, but I think that the NCAA and the school presidents and the commissioners have proven that they're not capable of solving the problem on their own.
No.
So the fact that there's no representation from the athletes, it's why groups like athletes.org and Jim Cavall are doing great work. And they actually had the first Players Association meeting at the College Football National Championship game week. But the problem is, like, you need buy-in from all the players. So you need everyone and I know they're working on that. But there's a bunch of I think solutions. How you actually implement it is the challenge. The players need representation because the people that are making the decisions don't know what the athletes go through. They don't know what a week is like, and they don't understand how adding 3 games to the schedule and adding another playoff game, but not taking away a regular season game. Like, that's not fair to the players. Now they got to play even more. They're lowering the lifespan of their career because they have to play more games, higher chance for injury, but they have no say in that decision. The second piece is that if I asked you who's in charge of college football, who would you say?
Greg Sankey.
Greg Sankey. Literally, he's in charge of college football. Greg Sankey's also in charge of golf and swimming and diving and men's basketball and women's basketball and lacrosse, and has to make the best decisions for those sports as well. So no one's actually in charge of college football. We need a college football commissioner who actually is in charge of college football and can make decisions for college football, because what's best for college football is not what's best for men's basketball. It's not what's best for swimming and diving and golf and all these other sports. So probably Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey and all these commissioners are probably the ones actually in charge, but they don't have the best interest of college football at heart. Greg Sankey has the best interest of the SEC and every other sport that
and
matters.
the big schools within the SEC. That right, like it sort of trickles down to the school level as well.
Let's get a commissioner.
Yeah, you're getting us fired up.
Yeah, you're getting us fired up. We could talk about this for hours. You brought up Jim. He's actually on the pod later today. Mm-hmm. And he brought up a great point around conference realignment. It's like
Jim's in New York right now?
Yeah, Jim's in New York.
Oh, wow. He didn't hit me up. That's crazy.
So it's with college realignment, or conference realignment, the same thing happened where the players weren't at the forefront of these discussions. Mm-hmm. And now you're Stanford, you're playing the ACC, you're going across the country, you're USC, you're playing Rutgers next year, which I'm very excited about living in New York. But it's really bad for the athletes, and their voice wasn't there. I'll also say, as a fan, it's a challenge, right? Some of those rivalries that we had, USC Stanford, USC Cal, even like players that you're used to. Sort of Penn State's done a good job of this, but other programs haven't. Where like you're used to having players for 3, 4, 5 years in your program and resonating with them. Mm-hmm. And I think the pros do a great job of this. Is you have the affinity for those players, which I think you're starting to lose a little bit in college football. How do you feel about the fan experience as a result of all these changes in college football specifically?
It's a good question. My first, you mentioned the Pac-12. My prediction, and I want this timestamp, so when it happens, we can come back to this. The Pac-12 will reunite and bring back a bunch of these schools that left. I think like Cal, Stanford, maybe even the Big Ten ones like UCLA will end up back in the new Pac-12. Now that the Pac-12 actually survived and poached a bunch of the Mountain West. Shout out to Teresa Gold, the commissioner of the Pac-12. I mean, that conference was dead, and now it's back. So I'm excited to see the Pac-12 come back in full force next year. The fan experience, I think, in some ways, it's made it more difficult, the current era of college football, where you do have players moving around. And if you're a fan in college, what a lot of people liked is like you knew you had those players for 4 years and you got to watch them develop in the program. And you could be a diehard fan of Washington football and like watch the freshman tackle come in out of high school and then watch him develop and then he plays and you're excited. At the same time, it certainly makes the offseason more exciting because you have an opening at a position, and every fan is like, who can we get in the transfer portal? Who can we go get? Who can we evaluate? So it's definitely made, I think, for like the media companies in the space. I mean, for companies like On3 and 247 and Rivals and like, there's nothing better than the fact that the transfer portal and NIL are here because it's made
to all of them.
Exactly, yeah. It's made it so much more interesting. Where now you have so much more to follow. I mean, there's just like who's hitting the portal, who's not in the portal but may actually get recruited. What are the sources saying? What's the guy getting paid? The fact that there's no transparency actually makes it more exciting for the fans because like, wait, wonder what this guy's getting paid at this place. So I think the fan experience is, while there's challenges, I do think that. That the negativity is overplayed. I think I think the sport's in a really good spot. The fans are excited. Stadiums are selling out. Viewership's at an all-time high. I think I don't think there's an issue with. I don't think the transfer portal or the players or NIL have any issue with fan experience. I think it's more so the conference realignment that's been an issue. It feels a little unnatural to have some of these schools in the ACC, and it feels unnatural the fact that UCLA has to travel to play Iowa, and like some of these games just don't feel great. And the travel that comes into it, the time zone, the effect on the players to for a team like Nebraska who has to travel, has to play a night game against Penn State and then travel back and then play and change time zones and then play Friday night the next week. Like that's not good for the players.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this ties back to collective bargaining because I imagine what the ideal is what the NBA has. They have collective bargaining. They have a salary cap. Mm-hmm. And there is a transfer portal, which is the off season, but you still get a lot of hype. Like everyone talks about NBA Twitter being a big deal, but there are at least rules of the road. I want to point out when it comes to collective bargaining, it's not just like a fairness thing, it's a business issue. Because what happens if there's no salary cap, the incentives are such that the Alabamas and Ohio States, they're going to keep paying more and more to their football and a little bit to their basketball teams too. Mm-hmm. They're going to cut the budgets for all non-revenue sports, so the Olympic sports. Ultimately, what you're going to have is a system where only the Alabamas and the Ohio States can compete at a couple sports. Mm-hmm. No one can compete at football and basketball really with the big guys, and then all of the non-revenue sports are, suffering because of that. If we go down this path without collective bargaining, could you lay out where you think we're heading and what you think like that destructive future looks like for college sports?
Yeah, I wish I had I could go to a time machine 5 years from now and see what it looks like because I do think there's a lot of different paths it could go down. I think what's going to happen at some point is the Power Four conferences are going to break away from the NCAA. I think if we've learned one thing, it's that the NCAA is incapable of anything productive. I mean, they failed on NIL. They sat around and didn't do anything. And let me say this. There's a lot of issues for the NCAA with like legality around everything. I mean, the like antitrust thing. There's a lot of issues for them. So I understand the issues and the reason they had to sit around. But like the NCAA can't govern college football anymore. It can't govern the Power Four conferences. So I think we'll see the Power Four conferences break away from the NCAA and govern themselves. And I think whether it's actual collective bargaining or whether it's some, and you guys probably know more about this than me, or whether it's some quasi form of collective bargaining and you keep the athletes as student athletes, but still have some kind of representation in all these decisions. I think one of the two has to happen. Yeah. There is an issue. There are concerns about and I've heard from both sides. Like I know, you guys know, I know Jim Cavall very well and his opinion. I've also heard from a lot on the other side that say like, there's no world where anyone actually should want these kids to be athletes or to be employees. Because when they're employees, you got a lot more issues you got to deal with. Now you got like you got the contracts are different. You got they're adults then at 18 years old when they're 17 when they're signing these contracts at times. And that there's an argument to be made that the actual best thing for them is not to be employees, but to stay as student athletes. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what it looks like moving forward. I mean, I did a bunch of content around the what's the House bill called that was
SCORE Act.
The SCORE Act. Sorry, yeah. A lot of terms going around in my head right now.
Now there's the SAFE Act as well being proposed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I did I did an interview with the chair of one of the committees that was pushing through the SCORE Act. Yeah. And he made some very strong points of like why it's best that these kids are not employees. Also, as soon as I put it out, I got a ton of flack from a lot of people that were like, "Why would you be promoting the SCORE Act?
Yeah.
That's terrible for the kids." I don't think the athletes even know like what's best for them. I think a lot of them are just trying to play football and make money. And I really think that there is a little bit of a dynamic where like the people like me in media and like us on this podcast sit here and like and everyone talks about like, oh, we got to fix college football and you got to fix all this stuff. And if you talk to the athletes, like they don't think anything needs fixed. They're like, this is great. We're getting paid. We're making money. We can transfer whenever we want. I think it's the people who want it fixed are the coaches.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are having the issue. The athletes don't have a problem right now. And like most things in life, when something is wrong for a long time, like we had here, the athletes didn't get paid for a long time. The fact that Penn State bookstore sold my jersey and I never got money for it is bullshit. Like that should never happen. But whenever there's something wrong for a long time, and it gets fixed, there's a tendency to overcorrect in the side of the other way. And we have clearly overcorrected to the side of the athlete, where they can transfer as many times as they want. There's multiple portal windows. They're more valuable in the transfer portal, and they can get paid and negotiate and with no repercussions. There's no buyout when they transfer. There's no like 3-year deal where you can't transfer. Like the athletes have so much power right now where you got to go back to the middle a little bit where the coaches have a little bit and the administrators know a little bit more about like, hey, if we're paying this guy $2 million, like we should have some guarantee that he's like here for 2 years. And if we're doing that, and if you're going to transfer, maybe you can transfer once, but you can't transfer 3 times and go all around. Like we got to correct back into that direction. I know that didn't answer your question directly, but I think in 5 years, like this thing could go so many different ways. And I'm excited to see how it plays out. But I do think it looks something like Power 4 conferences not being part of the NCAA.
Which, by the way, like I think that's why the 3 of us in this room are all proponents of collective bargaining because it helps the athletes and it helps the coaches, right? It helps the entire ecosystem. It just sort of stabilizes it.
Let me ask you, I'm going to turn this around.
Yeah.
Is there a path to collective bargaining without the athletes becoming employees? Or would they have to be employees in order to technically?
No, I don't think they need to be employees.
Yeah.
I think there's a whole set of other issues around health insurance and injury protection and all those things that I think, Aaron and I, as supporters of Jim and athletes.org and just supporters of the ecosystem and supporters of athletes want to see. And I think employee status is the best way to get there. Yeah. Understand there's some hurdles around antitrust exemptions and some of the legalities of all of it. But I think to start, it's just important for athletes to have a voice at the table, whether that's getting them classified as employees or not.
Yeah. No, it's there's a lot, and I think there's very few people that like actually understand what's going on, right? Like Jim's one of them, and you guys obviously I know. Like even, I get questions all the time, and I have a pretty good pulse and everything, but there's a lot of moving pieces and like and how it all actually works at the end of the day. And the people inside football who like really cover this sport and know it, like a lot of them aren't in the weeds on like the business side of it or that or how it actually works if they are employees or not employees. And a lot of people just want to see what's best for the sport. And I think everyone's on the same page that like athletes should be protected and they should be getting paid. But at the same time, like what these coaches have dealt with these last few years is like kind of chaotic.
It is. Yeah. I think truth is it's just all really complicated.
Yeah.
And people are learning faster and faster. But if you asked a lot of ADs and commissioners 3 years ago about collective bargaining or even PE money, which we haven't even talked about in college sports, they would have said never.
Yeah.
Now they're starting to take meetings. They're starting to open up their ears. And we've just been surprised at the pace of people coming around to the idea of collective bargaining.
Yeah. And it used to be something, from my conversations with ADs, like a couple of years ago, no AD would even like say the word collective bargaining or the word employee.
Or employee.
Yeah, it's like a dirty word. They like wouldn't say it, or especially not like on camera, like it wasn't even talked about. And now you're seeing like a little bit more openness to like that conversation and what it looks like and how it would all work. I went down to IMG Academy over a couple of months ago and had an interesting conversation about just like a philosophy around some of these programs that have all these resources. Like, why not have a second team at some of these programs like a Penn State? Why doesn't Penn State have a you could call it like the JV squad or the second tier team that plays FCS football, that plays Division II football, where like it's the second tier players. I think it's an interesting concept of like you have all the resources already that would add more athletes to the table and not cut sports, not cut Olympic sports, not cut all these players from actually getting an opportunity. There's a lot of complexities on that as well, but there's just another one of these like proposals of like what college sports could look like in the future.
Would love to sort of shift gears as we sort of wrap up the conversation. And just like for you to reflect on a personal note, you know, you've been a player, you've been a coach, you're now a media personality and an advocate for college sports, specifically college football. As all of this sort of change is happening in the ecosystem, what do you want your legacy to be on how things shake out?
That's a great question. You know, it's funny because like I do, and this probably comes from a little bit of like being around great coaches in my life, but I try as much as I can to like not think about 5 years from now and like legacy and what do I want to be remembered for. The reality is like no one remembers you after you know, like someone dies and like you talk about it for a day and then you like everyone, you just have a Wikipedia page. That's sad to say, but it's the truth. Like Gary Vee, who always says that, he's like, you know, no, like Gary Vee is my favorite line. He's like, when I die, like everyone will tweet about me for 24 hours and you'll all move on and forget about me.
Do you have a Wikipedia page already? Are you Wikipedia official?
Yeah, I'm Wikipedia official.
And you didn't write it,
There's
right?
so many things wrong. No, I did not write it. There's so many things wrong. It's funny. I actually had, my mom texted me recently. She's like, someone's got to update your Wikipedia. She sent me like all the things that are wrong on the Wikipedia. I'm like, I'm not editing. Like, that's not how it works.
That's too narcissistic to edit your own Wikipedia page.
No doubt. I was like, Mom, if you want to figure it out. But yeah, I'd say like ultimately, I want to build a massive media business, and like what that actually looks like 10 years from now, I don't know. And there's a lot of different angles it could go down. There's a lot of opportunity right now. I think one of the biggest things I deal with myself is like what I say yes to and what I say no to. Like I struggle with that because I'm definitely like an opportunistic. Like I get excited about things. Like I want to do everything. I get an idea and I'm like, we got to do it. I believe that, you know, I probably have a falsehood of like that I can handle 14 different things. Yeah. Like, I'm going to crush all of them. But like reality is when you say yes to something, you're probably saying no to something else too. So I think that's my biggest thing right now is like I'm in a great spot with everything that I have going on and kind of the flywheel of it all with like the content and the business side and have a ton of support and have put in a lot of work in these last couple of years. I think for me, like I want to continue to build a following. And like when people think about college football and college sports, like I want them to think about me. I want them to think about like when there's when a head coach gets hired, I want people to say like, okay, can't wait till Adam interviews that coach, right? And can't wait to see what actually happened there and to keep peeling the layers back on the conversation. You know, I want to keep building businesses and keep using content as a flywheel to build businesses and to drive consumer behavior and to drive attention for those businesses. My broadcasting career is like is on a cool trajectory right now, and I had a really good season with CBS, and like love being with CBS, and excited to keep building that. And people often say to me, like, in addition to the legacy piece, like, what do you really want to do? Like, do you want to be a broadcaster? Do you want to be a content creator? Do you want to be a business guy? And I always say, like, I want to do it all.
Yeah.
I want to do it. I think it all fits in. And I think I can do it all. I think they all kind of play off each other. I'm just excited to keep building, man. I want to keep. I'm almost like I like the journey of this more than I like really the outcome. Like I really do. Like I feel blessed. I wake up every day and like I woke up today and like I was fired up to like come on this podcast, and like I did a show this morning already and I'm about to go do some meetings. Like I love it. Like this is what I like to do. And I have great people around me. I want to keep building. I think at some point, like, keep growing the team and investing in the future of what it looks like. But I got a lot of good things going on right now, and I'm just trying to keep making it work.
It's been awesome to watch your growth,
Thanks,
dude,
man.
and we're
Appreciate
pumped for everything that's coming
Thank
next. We want to close out with a few rapid fire questions
let's
that are
go.
going to be good.
I got to be honest. You sent me the questions ahead of time. I didn't even look at them. So
Let's go. But real quick, where can our listeners find you, and what should they be expecting coming up next?
Yeah, I mean, find me on social media. Just at Adam Breneman is my handle. My podcast is Next Up with Adam Breneman. Maybe rebranded soon to the Adam Breneman Show, but that's a little sneak peek.
Let's go.
Breaking news?
No, breaking news, maybe. It's part of the business things I think about that you guys do too. Like Next Up is going to be an interview series underneath the Adam Breneman Show.
All right.
Like
let's go. That's an empire.
Assets you can sell and all that kind of stuff. So working on that. But yeah, I mean, my podcast is going to keep doing interviews with coaches all over the country and athletes and administrators and big names, and keep producing content myself. Going to start doing more. And one of the things that I think will be interesting is like, I create a lot of content and do the podcast, but a lot of people say to me, like, a lot of the DMs I get are like, hey, like, show us a day in your life. Show like a day like today.
Behind the scenes.
Like, so I'm actually working on a hire soon that's going to be like, speaking of narcissistic, someone just following me around with a camera all day. Honestly, again, like,
just sunglasses indoors.
Exactly. Yeah, I should do that. That'd be great. But yeah, I'm going to do more like day in the life content of like what it's like behind the scenes, like building a media company and doing content and all that. So that'll be coming soon as well.
That's awesome. All right, let's start with rapid fire.
I'm nervous for these.
Don't worry.
Are they easy?
They're easy. They're easy. First question: who was the toughest player you played against in your playing career?
Toughest player: Joey Bosa at Ohio State. Adrian Amos was a safety at Penn State that I used to go against to practice all the time, and we would get heated matchups. I think he's still playing in the NFL right now. But I would say those two guys, Joey Bosa and Adrian Amos, but he was on my team, but just practice. Yeah.
Favorite person you've ever interviewed?
I'd say Gary Vee was a big interview for me because I've like listened to his content for so long. When you asked me the question about when I got into content, I was also at the time like listening to a lot of Gary Vee podcasts, and he was like talking about if you want to do anything, you should be posting content. That's one of the reasons I started too. So that was a cool one for me. I think some of the big coaches ones I did originally in the beginning of the podcast were great. Like when James Franklin agreed to do it, and Greg Schiano sat down with me for an hour, and Dan Lanning and Lincoln Riley at USC. Like some of those coaches doing it definitely like put it on a good trajectory. So those were important ones too that I think were really cool.
If you were the GM of a college football program today, what's the first position you would recruit?
Quarterback.
Okay.
You meant position on the field, right?
Yeah.
I mean, definitely quarterback. I'd say quarterback and then
tight end.
No, tight end would be last on the list. We can win without a good tight end. I would say quarterback and then defensive end, like edge rusher. You got to have a good pass rusher that can disrupt the quarterback. Game's all about the quarterback.
What's the most underrated college football town in America? Underrated.
Yeah, underrated. These are good questions. I would say Laramie, Wyoming. Wyoming football. You ever been there?
Josh Allen.
No.
The land of Josh Allen. I was at the Colorado State Wyoming game. It's a sick town for football. Awesome place. Like beautiful setting. I was there for the first time calling a game, and I was like, this place is incredible. I mean, it's and like they love football there. I mean, there ain't much else out there than football. So that's a great town. I would say. I know these are rapid fire, but I'm enjoying answering them. So I would say. I really don't think Columbus gets enough love for being a football town. Like, everyone talks about like Ann Arbor and State College. Like Columbus is a really cool place, and they love football, and it's a cool city. I think it's a cool place.
And then last one, if you weren't working in sports or you weren't now working in media, what would you be doing?
I really don't know, to be honest with you. There was a little bit of a time where I thought I wanted to be in politics, and then I like flirted with it and then realized it's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I think like if I there's a world where I could have gone down that path, and I don't know what I'd be doing, but it wouldn't be this. And I'm certainly glad I didn't. I feel like right now with what I'm doing, I kind of touch like everything I could possibly. I touch the business world and sports and media and coaching a little bit. Like I did that, so I really don't know. Like this is what I don't know. I don't know anything else. Like this is what I do. I wouldn't be a doctor. I wouldn't be a lawyer. Like I'm not smart enough for that. I don't know.
College football. I mean, you saw with LSU and the Louisiana governor. You've seen sort of coaches being the highest paid players or highest paid people in the state. So there is a lot of overlap.
It's inherently political. And you're seeing all these guys. Did you see? I just saw AJ McCarron's running for lieutenant governor in Alabama. Yeah, I mean, it's all these like football players. Paul Feinbaum's going to run for the U.S. Senate. Did you see that? I mean,
no, I didn't.
Yeah,
I'm bullish on Adam's political career. 10 years. The Kalshi odds of 85.
Start doing that.
Well, Adam, I would just say thank you so much, man. This has been a real honor. Everything you're doing for college football, for college sports. It's just awesome to see. So congrats on everything, and excited for what the future holds for you.
Appreciate it, man. Love this podcast. Love what you guys are doing. So tell Jim I say hi when you're doing them doing them later today. But I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thanks again, Adam, for joining us on the Will Ventures podcast.
You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and socials.
And stay tuned because we have a lot more conversations with builders across sports and entertainment coming soon.